what's up guys, aarava here, and welcome back to a brand new video here today where we're talking again about F1 2019, the game, and talking through some ideas and desires that we want in the upcoming 2019 game, and these are directly based off what you guys have said in the comments below. So the very recent video I did a few days ago was particularly ideas I wanted based off the Australian Grand Prix, so if you did miss that one, I'll put an annotation in the top right. That was ideas directly from the real life GP, you know, what I could pick out from that weekend that I thought would be quite cool to have as a game mechanic in the F1 2019 game. And from that video in the comment section below, a lot of you guys were really sounding off a lot of good ideas, and a lot of them were being like thumbs up quite a fair bit. You know, the top ones I think were thumbs up by like 200 people plus in the comments below. So I thought it'd be worthwhile to do a video here today of 8 things we all want in F1 2019, the we being you guys in the comments below. So let's get into it, and starting off with number 1 is going to be just more random events in the Grand Prix. Things such as, you know, random punches, random front wing breakages, I guess random engine failures, not just for the AI, but also the player as well, because, you know, it feels like a lot of the time with the F1 game, I don't know about you guys, but certainly for me, especially when nothing does go wrong in a race, it feels really too safe. Like I kind of mentioned it in the video that we did for the Australian Grand Prix ideas, but, you know, these cars are like prototypes inside a season, and it just doesn't sometimes feel like all these cars are fragile and that at any moment something could go wrong, because something could go wrong. You know, just look at, you know, Ricciardo's accident in Australia. That was so random. Like you can't factor that in of like, oh, he's going to run over the grass, hit a bump and break his front wing. So I know it's very difficult to do in a video game. You know, they have to code everything, so it's never truly random, but, you know, they could have a kind of random number generator system maybe for every single AI car and your car of, you know, there's a chance there's a puncher into this random turn or front wing breakage. Obviously it can't be such a high chance because that would really piss you off, and it would also be a bit odd for the AI to get random punches, but just more random events kind of that could occur in the Grand Prix, especially when it comes to the engine. I think is probably the bigger one. Let's forget about punches and front wings. Probably more just really the engines. There needs to be more random failures. We saw Ferrari, you know, we've talked about going from Australia to Bahrain, that Ferrari might have this random major engine issue where their revs cut out. You know, having an issue like that could be really cool for the AI or for yourself. We hear, you know, the engineer says, oh, this AI car has an issue, but it'd be kind of cool to know what the issue is, and also for the player to be able to have that same sort of random issue where you know, going down the straight and you notice, oh, hang on, the revs have cut out at, like, you know, just before we hit the rev limiter. Why is that? You ask your engineer and he says, yeah, we're looking into it. There's an issue with the engine. It's just randomly come up. It would be kind of cool to just have that kind of more randomness about it. Number 2 is going to be a bit more of a complex rival system. So we do have rivalries right now in the current F1 2018 game, but it's a little bit kind of, you know, it's just aesthetics really, and kind of more trying to, I guess, spur you on to drive better, but it doesn't really do anything. You know, you choose a rival, you have your teammate as a rival, and you choose a rival later on in the season, and you see the head-to-heads, but it doesn't really do much for you. In the past, I want to say in the past there was kind of a system in a way. I don't know if it was truly there, but it might have been psychological. But way back on like F1 2012 and 2013, anytime you had a rival picked at the halfway stage of the season, I always felt like their AI car and their driver would drive so much better. I don't know if that was just me, or if some of you guys also felt that in F1 2012 and 2013. If you remember, if you cast your minds all the way back to that game, when you got given a rival, they always did better for some reason. I don't know if that was just psychological maybe, but I think that needs to be put into the game. You know, if you have a rival, let's say you have a tussle on track, you know, maybe even have a crash maybe, the next race, that AI, the aggressiveness stats go up there on that AI car. So he's not only more aggressive towards you, but just in general, he's trying to make a comeback drive. And at the same time, when you pick a rival, that driver actually improves in form and pace because he's trying to beat you now. You've signaled him out as a rival. You know, if you actually picked him as a rival, one would imagine that in the press you've said, yeah, I'm, you know, looking to try and take on this driver or something like that. So that driver, you know, picks up his pace and tries to give it to you, because it was a nice system back in the day where it felt like your rivals were faster once they were chosen as rivals, basically. So have that more complexity. You can also put that into interviews as well. If you talk about your rivals, that spurs them on, and so you create a much more in-depth rival system, and not just simply I'm picking Alonso or something like that, or to choose a 2019 example, I'm picking Leclerc as a rival in the Ferrari car. He's gonna, you know, I'm gonna see the head-to-heads, but that's it. You know, we all want a little bit more to do with that rivalry system, basically. Number 3 is going to be do away with the whole fading to grey when you DNF out of a Grand Prix. That was quite a big thumbs up one, actually, of people want the ability to be able to park up if you have an engine issue, and if you crash, you have the ability just to kind of sit there for a little bit. even, you know, if you've got three wheels on your car, kind of try and still move the car around to the edge of the track and then park up there, turn the car off maybe, and then it'd be cool to even see a little animation then of, you know, the camera cuts away from on board. It's like an off-camera shot, you know, from the track cameras, but it zooms in on your driver then, the animation of him getting out of the car alongside the track, and you still see the AI cars doing their race alongside. I think that'd be really, really mega. And then also, especially if you have an engine failure, if you have a lack of power maybe, you can try and struggle and drive the car back to the pit lane maybe to try and retard the car into the garage, or simply your engineer says park up somewhere safe, and so you've got to try and park up somewhere, you know, where there's a runoff area basically, and just stop that whole, you know, within 2 seconds of a failure, it fades to grey, you have no control, and within like, a further 3 seconds the screen comes up to say, do you want to restart the session, flashback or instant replay, or just, you know, retire the car. I think they need to delay that by a good like minute and just let you kind of, you know, actually feel like you're driving a real car, you know, because it kind of almost takes away from the immersion of like, oh, okay, cool, I've just taken out of it, there's a main menu screen, there's a UI screen, you know, let's just forget I was driving a Formula 1 car. I think it'd be a lot better to kind of make it feel like you're driving a real car. You can park it up yourself, and you can end the race on your terms, basically, in a way. Number 4 is going to be in general, and this was a big thumbs up one, actually. The comment, I think, was what I'd want in F1 2019 is to not be brake checked by AI down the inside line anymore, and that got me thinking just better AI racing, basically. And I get what that commenter was saying from the last video. I think it was the highest thumbs up comment, really, was being brake checked to the inside. The AI do have a tendency, especially at some specific corners, they definitely brake a little bit earlier than they really should be, and that not only is an issue when you're racing them, but also just over the lap they're slower than they could really be because they brake earlier at certain corners sometimes. But especially when you're racing, it sometimes is a bit annoying, and I've gotten used to it. I've been, you know, driving and playing career mode now for so many years that, you know, I've got to a point where I know how to drive to enjoy career mode. Like, I know how to dance around with the AI. I know that I'm going to attack around the outside, they're going to defend to the inside. I know there is no point trying to get behind in the slipstream into the brake zone because they are going to brake check you, and I know to duck to the outside or the inside and, you know, give them the room and then have a nice jostle there. But of course, if you've not played career mode that much, or if you're not willing to play career mode like that, and you want to play career mode and, you know, drive against the AI as if they're another player, if you're playing online, because if you were playing another player, you wouldn't drive like that. You would drive thick and fast, you would drive as fast as you possibly can, dive it to the inside, stick behind them, brake as late as possible, then make the move. You wouldn't kind of allow for this little bubble of space where the AI are a little bit stupid and might brake early, so you might want to do that. So if we can get as close as that as possible, where you don't need to, you know, you don't need to counteract for the AI, basically. You don't need to know that, oh, the AI are going to brake a little bit early here because he's defending, let's go to the outside then. It'd be really good. I mean, even then, I say that, even some instances, I try and give AI room, and they still brake check me, and there's still something that goes wrong. It happens sometimes. In a way, it's kind of good in a way as well, to be fair. So just a bit of devil advocate to the person who commented that below and all the people that thumbs up. In a way, it's kind of good, though, that the AI do brake check you a little bit sometimes, and they do get a little bit erratic, because then it's like real life almost. Just sometimes you can't foresee what the driver ahead of you is going to do, and sometimes you just can't account for things, and, you know, stuff happens, and you hit drivers and you make some contact and crashes happen. Otherwise, in real life Formula 1, there would be no DNFs in Grand Prix if there wasn't anything like that. So sometimes it can be kind of a good thing. I think right now, to be fair to Cody's, they've got a nice balance of how the AI race. I do like how aggressive they are at some points and how, you know, open they are to letting you race them, and at the same time they just cut you off sometimes. I think it's a fine balance. They've got it pretty much okay. You know, I get pissed off occasionally here and there, but it's kind of worth it in a way to have that more aggressive AI racing you hard. Number 5, and this was actually a very good point. I actually started thinking about this. More flexibility on tyre choices for the race weekend, because I don't think I've ever cared about the tyre choices on F1 ever since like F1 2012, I want to say, or 2013 maybe at a push. I think the last time I genuinely cared about what tyre compounds I'm taking into the weekend and how many I am taking to the weekend was 2013. Like, when it got introduced in 2011, it was like revolutionary about the tyres you selected. And then 2012-13 was really good. You could actually make a difference to your race strategy, because in 2012 especially, the strategy for most Grand Prix was you always pick the harder tyre compounds to qualify on, and then you went on the softer compound later on And then 2013, it sometimes was worth to pick a lot of soft tyres and go really aggressive, or sometimes it was worth to go conservative. But I got to be honest, I don't know about you guys, I have never changed the tyre compounds at all once in F1 2018 career mode. It's always been the default, distributed compounds over the soft, medium, and hard. It's always been the middle one of just a kind of average spread of the tyres. I've never gone too soft, I've never gone too hard, because it's just not worth it right now in F1 2018 or even the previous 2-3 F1 games. So they need to maybe, look into that and kind of make it more worthwhile to pick the softer compounded tyres, because we've seen in real life now, whenever Pirelli publish the tyre compound selected, the top teams especially go for a lot of soft tyres, not a lot of hard tyres. Even the middle teams will try some things sometimes. We've seen McLaren sometimes pick, weirdly odd number of medium hard tyres or something like that, sometimes because they forget to allocate their tyres. But there just isn't too much variation in tyre selection in the game compared to how there is in real life. And in real life, it can make or break your race. If you run out of tyres, you're screwed in the race. If you have plenty of tyres, you can go nuts and you can have a really aggressive strategy. So I think they need to implement that more in the game, because I personally have not ever touched that, actually once, I don't think, in F1 2018. Number 6 is going to be taking inspiration from Motorsport Manager. There needs to be a percentage chance of rain rather than really letting you know when the rain is coming. Right now, on the strategy screen, you can pretty much see when the rain is going to come down. I would like that period of rain to be a kind of rain might come in this period. There's a percentage chance of 50% or 40% or up to 80% or 20% of rain falling in this period. So right now, what happens unfortunately is if you can see the rain's coming, you can pretty much plan your strategy around that rain coming, and the AI do that as well. So it's not like you're taking an advantage because the AI do it as well, but it's just a little bit less random. And going back to random events, it's a bit too choreographed. Area of rain in the race strategy, there needs to be a percentage chance of it happening, and so that you and the AI can get caught out on it. Because I feel like back in a few years ago, the AI and you were able to get caught out on the rain a lot more than you do kind of now. Now it's kind of almost like, oh, I know the rain's going to come, so I'm going to pit here and it'll be all fine. Obviously, the way the rain falls on F1 2018 does mean there is about 2-3 laps of uncertainty still when the rain starts to fall of when you pit, but then there needs to be uncertainty of the rain falling, full stop basically in that period of the race. Number 7, and I'm pretty sure if I remember correctly, I have stated this idea before, and it was quite a big one in terms of it trying to explain it, but this came up again and got a lot of thumbs up, so I thought I'd bring it up again because some people around there might not have heard it before, is engine R&D. I think it needs to be, and this person who commented below as well, thinks that it needs to be for all the customer teams. So obviously Renault supply McLaren, Mercedes supply Force India and Williams, Ferrari, you get my drift, and so I feel like there needs to be that engine supply trickling down to consumers. Obviously that's quite a complex system, and it may not work in a way of it takes control away from the player if you're a customer team. So if you're racing as McLaren, it would take away control of your R&D if Renault were the ones that decided your R&D path for the engine, but it also makes sense in terms of real life to have that. So I don't know, giving extra R&D points to the customer, to the factory teams to develop engines, but at the same time, as much as they develop their own engines, it will also trickle down to consumers. I think that could be a way to look at it. Also, a different way to look at it that I don't think I have mentioned before is maybe looking at it in terms of reliability versus performance. We've heard Honda talk about, and Renault also talk about, we're developing the engine for reliability now versus performance. We've seen Ferrari even put their engines in safe mode for reliability rather than performance. On the R&D, I think there needs to be an extra category for engine development on the R&D tree, which is engine reliability. Now, I know you get engine reliability in the reliability part of the tree, but I think they need to remove some of those parts of the reliability tree and stick them in the engine side of development, because I think it kind of goes hand in hand, and there should be some kind of payoff between reliability and performance. I shouldn't be able to spend money on performance and reliability at the same time, because in theory, in reality, that just wouldn't happen in real life. Most of the time, you kind of choose one. Yes, sometimes reliability upgrades can give you performance boosts, boosts, and some performance boosts can give you reliability, but not all the time. So I think there needs to be a bit of reshuffling with the R&D tree in a way, almost, to make it a bit more clever. And finally, number 8. Now, this one is a bit of a kind of out there kind of concept, but number 8 is going to be real-life voices and pre-recorded voices for the drivers, for like team radios, like celebrations for the race win, podiums maybe, points paying positions, interviews perhaps, but I just know that they would have a very hard time of even finding the time, let alone the budget of going out there and recording the drivers saying that stuff. F1 drivers are so busy as it is. I don't know. I'm sure some of them would love to record stuff to hear themselves in the game, but I just don't think it'd be very plausible. Cody's and F1 isn't quite at the FIFA level yet, where they can spend that budget and have that time as well, have that pulling power, I guess, to, sit down all 20 drivers and record so many lines of dialogue for every kind of possibility, but it's a nice idea nonetheless. So guys, that's been 8 more ideas we all want to see in F1 2019 based off what you guys said in the comments below of my previous video from the Australian Grand Prix. With the Bahrain Grand Prix coming up, I'll be looking out around the Bahrain Grand Prix again to see any kind of inspirations we can take from Bahrain for more ideas that are going to kind of mimic real life, so I'll be on the lookout for that. And if you do also notice your own ideas, then do let me know in the comments below over the next weekend at Bahrain, or if it's easier, maybe just tweet me or message me on Instagram over the weekend if you spot any kind of things in real life that could be kind of good for the game. Let me know on social media and whatnot. But guys, if you did enjoy the video and did enjoy these ideas, then be sure to hit that like button. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. If you are new around here, do subscribe for weekly full-on content. I've been aarava. I'm just today, and I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.